young person, I would guess around 30.
Hello. Thanks for sending me the link, Colleen. Hi, Brandy. Hello.
Hi, Gavin.
Hi.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Well, it looks like we're well over quorum. So Colleen, if you're ready, I can start the meeting.
Hold on one second. We've got a lot of people who are coming in.
Okay.
I'll give it like maybe 1 or 2 more minutes.
Okay.
All right, I think we're good. You ready?
I am. Very good. Well, welcome everyone to the January 21st Faculty Senate meeting. The meeting is called to order, and we will begin with the roll call. So Colleen.
Barber,
Here.
Barrett,
Here.
Boumineer,
Here.
Branyan,
Here.
Brandenburg,
Here.
Brown,
Here.
Carmack,
Here.
Chambliss,
Here.
Chong, Corley, Deweese,
Here.
Edelman,
Here.
Elman,
Here.
Urban,
Here.
Evans,
Here.
Fuentes,
Here.
Galt,
Here.
Gordon,
Here.
Graffius, Green,
Here.
Hadley,
Here.
Hester,
Here.
Ivory,
Here.
Carapasmino,
Here.
Kellison,
Here.
Khan,
Here.
Kimbrell,
Here.
Neese,
Here.
Kramer,
Here.
Sangwon Lee,
Here.
Mike Sinke for Trung Lee,
I'm here.
McKinnon,
Here.
Mason,
Here.
McClenny,
Here.
McLean,
Here.
Nickel,
Here.
Olivieri,
Here.
Gavin Lee for Pisani,
Here.
Pinko,
Here.
Richter,
Here.
Scullin,
Here.
Self, Scott Meyer,
Here.
Shoemake,
Here.
Snipes, Swift,
Here.
Sykes,
Here.
Talbot,
Here.
Tawidi,
Here.
Weber,
Here.
Williams,
Here.
Wofford,
Here.
Yoder,
Here.
and Jonathan Corley, I saw you come in, so I marked you. If there's anyone else, please send me a note in the chat, and we are good to go.
Very good. Well, thank you, Colleen. President Kelly was not able to attend today's meeting, but the provost is here, so we will go directly to the provost's report. Dr. Preston, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. I appreciate the time we have here today together. Regrettably, I apologize that I'm not on camera, but I am off campus attending some other matters, and look forward to being here with you for part of the Faculty Senate meeting, but I will need to step away in a bit. So I will keep my my remarks as brief as possible. And I know that also Dr. Ela and Dr. Akins have some further details, and I appreciate you all adding them to the agenda so that they can dive deeper into some of these items that I'll mention briefly. Well, first, let me, as always, commend you all and thank you for your work on the Faculty Senate. This is important work, and you all are working on various committees representing units across the institution, and I greatly value your input and your work and the time that you spend serving on Faculty Senate, and for everyone here with us. Also would like to echo Dr. Kelly's comment earlier this week, giving some updates in his message. The Georgia General Assembly in the 2022 legislative session, and there are many items on the legislative agenda that will have potential impact across the state and to higher education, one of which I would echo Dr. Kelly's appreciation and support to Governor Kemp and the proposed benefits enhancement for state employees, including a $5,000 pay increase for full-time benefits eligible state employees. Now, as we know, there are many steps throughout this process, so it is a proposal at this point, but I appreciate the governor's message and to the value of state employees, including those at West Georgia. And we will be watching that closely, and we'll be implementing that if and when that comes to pass. We are now 3 weeks into the new year. I guess we're at the conclusion of the first 2 full weeks of the spring semester. And while we have drop for non-payment ongoing and processing those details, I am happy to say that retention from semester to semester remains strong, as it has from the fall to spring at the graduate level and fall to spring at the undergraduate level. We maintain a 94 or 95% retention rate among our graduate students, fall to spring, and we maintain about a 90% undergraduate retention rate. So that is, given all of the tumult in the world, that is good news that our students continue to see the value of West Georgia and are remaining with us. In fact, I believe Mark Reeves mentioned earlier in a meeting this week that our retention numbers relative to past years is as strong, if not stronger, better. As I've mentioned to you in previous meetings, we continue to see a larger number of our students wanting to take classes fully online. In spring 21, this grew at the undergraduate level up to 28%, which was about a 10% increase. It has dropped down as of spring 22. The percentage of fully online undergraduate students is down to 24. So more of the students are coming back to campus and want to participate in face-to-face modalities. The graduate population continues to favor fully online delivery, and appreciate all of those grad programs that have worked hard to meet that desire. We maintain about 85% of our graduate students that are fully online. As the semester began, one of the most challenging things we have is meeting student need in wait lists and students wanting to get into classes, and managing the complexity of that, I know, is a big task for all of the program coordinators and department chairs and faculty and deans. Since we implemented a more robust waitlist process, effectively creating waitlists for every section of every course as a means to capture student interest, we are processing those waitlists. And I'm happy to say from November to the start of the semester 2 weeks ago, each of your units reduced that wait list by 63%. So at the height, there were about 430 students that wanted to get into classes. And there's all kinds of reasons why this might have changed, but the largest reason is that we created new sections of courses. In coordination with department chairs, faculty increased the section sizes to meet that increased demand. and brought that wait list down to just 161 students. Of course, we'd love to hit zero there, but that's not always possible. I just commend everyone involved in helping to meet student need. We are in the process this semester of starting to advertise our new degrees that were approved by the Board of Regents last semester. We've got the Nexus in Bachelor's in Computing and the Master's in Digital and Social Media Communication. Those 3 new degrees alongside all of our programs, we are aggressively marketing and letting more students know about the opportunities at West Georgia. And I am looking forward to fall 22 to see increased enrollment, in particular with Vice President Scranage joining in strategic enrollment and management, and all of the work that she and that team are doing. In particular, this weekend, we've got an academic showcase, and we will continue to afford students and their families an opportunity to come on campus and talk with faculty. You all are the best connection point for these prospective students. And when they are able to hear from you and your passion about the discipline, that goes a long way in increasing the students' interest and getting them here. We have a number of updates across academic affairs. And again, I will defer to Dr. Ela to dive into more detail with respect to research and some of the changes there. I recognize that we've had a shift in personnel, and that has put a strain on the support of research across the institution. I appreciate the patience that all of the faculty have given during this time of transition, and happy to say, as Dr. Ela will share in more detail, we've got some positive movement there in getting resources needed to support research across the institution. Similarly, we have some changes in the Center for Teaching and Learning, and we've got a new interim director coming in. I commend Dr. McRae for all of the work that he has done, but moving on to a new opportunity, and I'm excited for that. But that does create a new need, and we want to make sure that our Center for Teaching and Learning is giving the faculty and the students the support that they so much need and deserve. Similarly, we continue to increase our international engagement and the kind of bringing West Georgia to the world and bringing the world to West Georgia. That includes the Office of Education Abroad and Dr. Gakher Parker starting last month, and the leadership that she brings is much needed, and looking forward to some great things. And I know many of the faculty on the advisory council, as well as those that are putting forward programs and implementing those. I think there are still some challenges globally with respect to COVID, but I know we will navigate those well and really give our faculty and our students great international experience. Additionally, we are increasing our international recruiting efforts, working with Paul Sargent and that office to, in particular, focus at the graduate level. That is typically what students are wanting to do, but we will include undergraduate as well. And I encourage any faculty who have connections abroad and who might want to champion a 2+2 or a 4+1 program to reach out to Paul, myself, and happy to have conversations around what you believe is possible in recruiting more international students. Dr. Akins will dive into more details for the 2 executive director positions for accreditation and quality enhancement, as well as the institutional effectiveness and assessment, but those are both very vital to our work as we get ready for and look to our class of 24 SACS reaffirmation process. That is a long process that requires a lot of documentation. I'm confident that our self-study that we put together and submit will meet the expectations, if not exceeding what SACS is looking for, and would be remiss if I didn't mention the groups that put together QEP proposals that were submitted by earlier this week. Those are being reviewed, and I am excited to dive into the details of those and see some of the great ideas that you all have put forward in how we can focus on the continuous improvement and quality enhancement. You will see, Dr. Ela will share with you a new opportunity for faculty today for Innovations in Teaching Fellows. This is a new project that we are launching this semester that allows faculty who are doing new and innovative things, either in the classroom with the AV opportunities there, or in online, and creating new opportunities for students to learn in new ways with technology. This feeds into Scholarship of Teaching and Learning, and would love to see faculty's work in that. And so it's a brief call for proposals and some stipends for these fellowships that for work that faculty will do, and really highlight the excellence there. And finally, before we get into some questions, I'd like to focus on some of our strategic priorities as part of the strategic plan, and really looking at that big six that came out of the recent research from Gallup and Purdue, focusing on these six major elements of that can really be clustered into two areas about belonging and connectedness leading to retention and student success, as well as the experiences that students have that we enable that lead to post-graduation outcomes. And if you've read that study that was referenced in our strategic plan, it's not every student across the nation that gets that kind of support. It's really quite small. Their 2015 study identified only 3% of students that got all six of these elements that I'm confident that we are doing great in, and that we can do better. And the heart of our strategic plan focuses on ensuring that students get all six of these. So I commend you to refer to those, and in particular, think of ways that you're already showing that belonging and connectedness and the good work that you're doing there. Let's highlight those all the more, as well as these in classroom and out of classroom experiences that give students bragging points on when they're launching their careers. And a quick example of that, the timely, Dr. DeLine shared with a group just yesterday about a new journal article, high profile journal article that they had published recently coming out. And what was intriguing about that was that it involved a number of student co-authors, 5 of which were from West Georgia. And these students have gone on to do great things. They're now alum, but that captures this essence of the great faculty work that you all are doing, connecting your students to opportunities, whether it's research or creative activities, scholarship inside and outside of the classroom. And I really thank you for that work. There are all kinds of examples across the institution, and you all are creating that distinctiveness that is at the heart of UWG. Dr. Williams, I know you sent a couple of questions, and I'd like to address those, and then maybe we've got time for one or two before I need to step away. But in particular, there was a question about the comprehensive analysis of programs, and a question of, what is the audience for this, and is the BOR, did they initiate this, and really who is the audience? I'll echo comments that I made in the fall. It's a great question, and I've had a time to review the materials that faculty have put together that the deans submitted to me back in December, and I'm having meetings with the deans in the last couple of weeks that really dive into some of the analysis that faculty have done on that. The audience for these are really ourselves. And yes, I'm having conversations with the deans, but really it's a time for faculty to reflect on the work in your programs. And those questions were intended to guide really more introspective questions on any programmatic changes that might be necessary. These are not going to the board. The USG did not ask for these. This was created, and the genesis of this was for us to enhance our competitiveness and shine a light on great things we're doing, as well as things that we might need to improve. So the short answer is the audience is ourselves. And of course, the curricula are led by and guided by faculty. So this was an opportunity for faculty to see perhaps potholes that we need to fill in, or changes that we might need to make. As an example, one of the question prompts was focused on prerequisite chains and the length of those. Sometimes as programs evolve, that gets long and can be inhibiting students graduating in a timely fashion. Another question focused on credit hours for the degree. 120 for a bachelor's degree is the USG standard. And there are times when we might need to go above that, but have we self-imposed unnecessarily additional courses that might be great, but are keeping students from being able to graduate as timely as we would like? So the comprehensive analysis of program is an internal process that we are using to improve continuously. There was a question about the survey for distributed last fall, and I'll defer to Dr. Kelly to address that. That's beyond my purview, so I really don't have an answer for you on that. And then there was some personnel questions, one of which was Dr. Kelly moving on to another job. I have not heard that, so I will dispel that rumor. He and I both share a love for UWG and are deeply committed to the success of this institution and our students and faculty and staff. There were related to personnel leadership team. Have we discussed high level of resignation? Absolutely. And you might have seen in the news that I believe it was in November last year, there were 4.5 million resignations across the nation. So we are seeing some of that, those trends, those national trends and statewide trends played out locally. I'm very interested in retaining talent and supporting people, and I continually advocate for people across the institution, in particular across academic affairs. We want to, we celebrate, and we've had some changes and people moving on to other things, and we celebrate that for them when that's best for them, and that's their, they're called to something else. But we also want to make sure that we are honoring those that are here and retain talent as much as we can. There was a question about job offers, and I will dive into that a bit. We've got a number of faculty searches going on, and so the executive director positions that I referenced earlier. The process of that is committees are charged by a hiring manager, whether that's a department chair or a dean, provost president, and the focus there is for the committee to go through the process, make recommendations throughout. The hiring decision and the contracts are reside at the board level and are deferred to, and the implementation of that is deferred to the president, who can allow others to act on their behalf. And in that case, ultimately, we make recommendations throughout the process, and then searches can, I'm sure many of you have been in searches that zig and zag and go in a lot of different directions, and we do our best to get the best people here to join us. There was a kind of a philosophical question about that we are hired by our students, and I know that I have heard Dr. Kelly mention that. I probably have echoed that comment. And the question, the gist of the question was, are we serving our students or are we serving the broader society? And I don't see that as an or, I see that as an and. Students certainly have an expectation when they come to any institution, including West Georgia, that we are serving them, and we have expertise, and they are paying money and tuition and coming here because they expect outcomes. At the same time, we have a duty to the broader society to help educate and continue the excellence of the academy across the region and state. So to that question about do we answer to students or do we answer to our society and taxpayers, I would say it's both. We certainly have a duty to both there. And then the final question that was presented to me focuses on communication. Dr. Kelly recently authored a memo, and then I shared it with the deans, talking about solving problems as locally as possible and ensuring maximum transparency. And maybe there's a follow-up question to this. I agree with that sentiment that it's not a president or provost that's best equipped to serve students and solve problems, but many times faculty and staff that are local to that situation know the context and can, whether it's a grade appeal or something else that comes up, And I think that that's captured not only in the message that Dr. Kelly shared recently and I passed on, but also it's encoded in our processes and our policies. I'll use the grade appeal example, right? If a student emails the president or myself around a grade or something that's going on in the course, we always connect that and start with, have you talked with your faculty? Have you then made the appeal to the department chair and then dean and so on? And so we want those that are experts and most closely to the situation that can address that most directly. So I again appreciate the time we have. We've got a few more minutes, so Dr. Williams, happy to take one or two questions as time allows.
Well, excellent. Yeah, and thank you very much for addressing each of the questions that I sent you in advance on behalf of the faculty. So I really appreciate that. I'll open the floor up for questions for the provost. So if anyone wants to either raise your hand and ask a question directly, or if you want to send me a private chat message or a public chat message for that matter, and I can read the question. I know that Dr. Preston said initially, I guess you have to leave shortly after 1:30, so we don't have a lot of time, but if anyone would like to jump in with a question, that would be great. I would certainly welcome those. In the meantime, let me just follow up on that final question. That final question was not mine, but it is a concern that I've heard from several quarters and share myself. I think the concern, and I don't want to necessarily read a meaning into the question that the faculty member didn't necessarily intend, but I think based on my best guess that there's a concern that when a communication originates, say, at the presidential level, and it's transmitted down from president to provost to deans to chairs, at any point along the way, that communication line could break down. And so the president's communication in itself is an example of that in discussing how communication was going to be issued on campus, the president outlined something like that and sent that email to the vice presidents, and then you sent it to the deans. And I can tell you that there were a number of departments on campus that never received the email from their chairs. Significant numbers of faculty and staff did not get that. So I guess the question would be, is there any discussion of, I guess, if there's a campus-wide communication that needs to go out like that, are there more efficient ways to transmit that information that could go directly to faculty and staff instead of having it filtered down through multiple levels and in some cases lost along the way?
Yeah, that's a great point. And, I would say if there are cases where things are not getting, and, if a faculty person says, well, I didn't hear that, I'll redouble my messaging to the deans to ensure that they are working with their chairs and other leaders that this is happening if it is in local areas where it's not. I believe many of these are also posted in WorkWest, in the archive. And for my part, this is why we have the weekly academic affairs newsletter. So if there are certain points, the Innovations in Teaching Fellows is a great example of that. You will see we're addressing it here in this forum. Dr. Ela will dive into deeper detail, but there was an email sent out to deans this morning to make sure that they had it in writing and that they could message that to faculty. And it will also be in that newsletter on Monday. So your point is well made that we need to say things in multiple ways to ensure that everyone gets it. And when that isn't happening, I welcome faculty to reach out directly to me, and I will handle that with confidentiality, but we'll make sure that it is functioning properly.
Okay, well, thank you. I just received a question from a faculty member along these lines, and the question is, was there ever an official announcement regarding John Haven's departure? Because a lot of faculty in the faculty member says a lot of faculty in my college, the college from which that question originated, have not heard about it.
Sorry, technical difficulties. Sorry for the pause. Sometimes the button doesn't work right. Yeah, I believed I passed that along, and so if that didn't reach you, then again, you're welcome to reach out to me, and let's see where the breakdown did occur. Again, I'll handle those discreetly. I'm not interested in pointing fingers, but it's really just about ensuring that these things are getting into the hands of people.
Okay, thank you. Last call for any questions for the provost for today. Oh, I guess a follow-up question. I don't know if this is something that could be, if there really is a response to this, but the faculty member asked, how do we know what we don't know? In other words, if you're calling for faculty to alert you if they didn't get a particular message, and I guess the follow-up question was, well, there may be a number of messages going out that we don't know if we didn't receive them. It's hard to know. Here's another question though, along slightly different lines. This is back to the issue of high level of departures from the institution, and so the question is, does the provost, do you as the provost have a percentage or other measure of faculty and staff who have left the institution in the last 2 years?
I do not. I mean, I suppose we could look into that. HR should be able to provide those details. I just from, at a gross level, and this might vary across different institutions, but having 5% to 15% of turnover in any given year is not abnormal. I mean, we would love to reduce that and retain faculty, but people are being promoted, they're being hired out, they're going to other places. There's two sides to that. One is, they're leaving because they don't like what they're currently doing, or they don't see a new opportunity. And the other is that they're going to something. So there's both sides to that. And I think that there's, and if we look at the CVs of our faculty and the resumes of our staff, I think you'll see that there's people moving on nearly continuously in any given year. I will say during this time in the world, that is heightened as people are re-examining what their priorities are. And I share the concern and the sentiment and the stress implicit in the question that, are we giving people the best that we can, and are we keeping, building people up and increasing opportunities for them? I'll point as an example to these fellows positions that we're creating, and some of the internal hiring that we're doing as that. I want to let's take one more question. I do want to be mindful of the time, and my offer to you is certainly, as you have other questions, please reach out directly to me. I'm happy to continue some of these conversations if people have individual questions that I can chat with them next week or the week after. But I believe we've got a hand. I can't see everyone, but there might be one more question. Let's take.
Yeah, I appreciate that. We'll give the last question to Kathy Scottmeyer. Kathy.
Hi, thanks. I appreciate you taking my question. I'm kind of going back to the verbiage that was used about being hired by our students. I know that I'm not the only one that was kind of taken aback by that language. It seems as though it's more of a corporate style model where, kind of hearkening back to the Disney model that fits for a corporation. But the university is not a corporation that sells things or services, and using the language of our students hiring us or purchasing their classes sounds like we are obligated to give them, the outcome that they want, right? So it feels as though we are being set up to inflate our grades. We are being set up for a lot of student dissent and a lot of problems. We're not selling a commodity. We're selling a social good. And I think that the language was a little bit startling for a number of us. It's not just me. This is a conversation that I've been having with a number of faculty. And so the question becomes, what is the relationship that we are supposed to be having with our students? Are they customers that we're supposed to be satisfying and giving them what they want, the outcome that they want, which ultimately is an A in the class? Or are we meant to be their mentors and teaching them something and provide an education that's going to offer an educated population at the end of the day? So I guess it's a question of the verbiage that's being bantered around about who our students are, and the idea that we're actually hired by them that I'm questioning.
Yeah, I appreciate you kind of revisiting that, and that's a great opportunity for me to clarify. I think we're coming at, using our interpretation of that word hire might mean something significantly different. And what I'm hearing in your question, as a faculty person, as a teacher for decades, I have been very intentional in talking with my own students in that they're not given a grade, they earn that grade. And so to that element of your question, I would say when a student signs up for a course, their goal might be an A. I hope that their goal is to have a rich experience and to learn and to sit alongside the faculty that are teaching that course and get that expertise that faculty rightly have. So let me start with that and say that, the goal shouldn't just be an A. The A is an indication of mastery and the experience that the student had. So I completely agree with you in that respect, that we are to give them that environment. And in our that I mentioned SACS accreditation and in disciplinary accreditation, it's very important to note that the standard is, do we enable the attainment of these outcomes? It's not that we guarantee these outcomes. It is not that we certify incorrectly. So grade inflation, and if I came off to imply anything else, I apologize. My intent in saying we have a relationship with students. Students pay the institution for the opportunity to attend, and in that regard, we have an obligation and a duty to them to fulfill the outcomes and the syllabus and deliver the content as described. Of course, there can be variations. Things come up, of course, every semester. But in the same way, they're taking a class with a description and a syllabus, and they're coming into that. But I want to assure everyone on the call and who might be listening online and who might hear this later that the notion of a transaction where you pay funds for the course and we give you an A so that you can have a 4.0 GPA, that's not what I'm trying to imply here. And let's look at the grade appeal process, right? A student might believe they should have gotten a higher mark, and they make their case. Going back to that communication and solving problems locally, we rely on the faculty as the first person to describe why that grade is appropriate, and can appeal thereafter through the process. But we begin with respect for the experts in the classroom. And I hope that gives you assurance that when we talk about students hiring us, maybe it's just a language difference of interpretation there, but I absolutely affirm the primacy of the expertise of the faculty, and in no way imply that we should be selling grades or inflating grades. But again,
Thank you.
And happy to follow up on that and dive deeper, in particular in an era where people are questioning the value of higher education more and more. And we're talking about student success and enabling that and timeliness to graduation. Let's maintain excellence. I never imply, and I hope that it never is taken this way, that we should lower our standards. We have amazing programs, amazing faculty, and students come here because of that, going back to points of distinction. So let's not erode that value. Again, I thank you for the time. Apologize, I need to step away, but please reach out to me if I can dive deeper, and I defer to Drs. Akins and Ela to provide some more details on areas in there their focus.
Well, thank you, Dr. Preston. We do appreciate that. So we'll now go to the Vice Provost. Dr. Akins, the floor is yours for your report.
Thank you and Happy New Year to everyone. I hope this is a very successful year for us. I would like to provide first an update on the QEP with a special thank you to the faculty work group that is reviewing the QEP proposals. If you allow me, I would like to share the composition of that group, rather to share again, because this was presented in an October, I believe, meeting of the Faculty Senate. The work group that is reviewing the QEP proposals is including the SACS-COC leadership team faculty representative, Dr. Morris, representative from the Institutional Planning Committee, college representatives from CACSI, College of Education, University College, RCOB, Communication, Film and Media, Nursing, and a representative from the library. In addition, we have a representative from Enrollment Management. I'm also participating in the meeting for providing general guidance and oversight. When the new Executive Director of Accreditation, Quality Enhancement and Quality Enhancement is hired, then we will immediately engage that individual with the quality enhancement projects. You know that the deadline for submission of projects was this Monday, and we did receive 6 proposals. I would like to share with you the general areas, the topics of these proposals, and they are under review, so there is no outcome yet. The topics of the proposals we received were related to news, media, and information literacy, the language of leadership, level up empowering career and curricular confidence, career readiness, comprehensive internationalization, and experiential learning. The team is meeting next week to finalize the assessment rubric and to start the actual review of proposals with expectations to deliver proposals for further review by the general campus community and leadership as planned mid-February. So February 15 is the time, the deadline that we have planned to have selections out of these proposals for further review by all of you and also the leadership team. I will pause here for any questions you may have about the QEP proposals.
Any questions for Dr. Akins on QEP? Don't see any raised hands. Nothing has come in through the chat, so I'll return the floor to you, Dr. Akins.
May I then continue with some updates on searches? First, you probably all have seen over the last 10 days, we had 3 candidates on campus interviewing for the position of Executive Director of Accreditation and Quality Enhancement. We are in the process now of collecting feedback. There was a survey, also feedback from committee participants and anyone who has been in contact with these applicants. The anticipation is this will conclude by sometime mid next week, and to have a discussion with Provost Preston about the finalists that were on campus before the end of the month, hoping that we can bring someone after that very shortly. In my discussions with the candidate, it is clear that any of the 3 of them can be here. They indicated between 2 weeks and 4 weeks. So this is very encouraging, meaning that at the latest in the beginning of March, we will have somebody on campus. You may also have seen that next week are coming on campus a couple of candidates for the position of Executive Director of the Office of Institutional Effectiveness and Assessment. I hope that you have a moment to review their presentations and contact and communicate with them so you can provide feedback. It is very important to have as much feedback as possible. Of note, the position is open until the end of January, and we invited the first two candidates not to make them wait very long because this position has been open for a while. Yet I wanted you to know that the search committee is reviewing several more applications, and possibly another person may be coming to a visit. It depends on how they will kind of go through the search process. So we have at least two candidates coming and a possibility of possibly one more towards the end of the month. Again, it is in review currently by the search committee. Another search that is at its final stage is the search for coordinator for the Office of Education Abroad. And Dr. Gautier Parker is heading that search. So I believe she is at the finalist stage. And last but not least, as a reminder, the search for the Dean of the College of Education, which I'm sharing, was renewed. And at the end of this month, practically next week, we are going to have a search committee meeting to revive the search and start review of candidates. So I will pause here, and I have a little bit more announcements, but any questions about the searches that I provided information about?
Would anyone like to ask Dr. Akins any questions about the searches that she mentioned? IEA, director, dean, etc. No hands. So I think it's back to you, Dr. Akins.
Thank you. I wanted the faculty to be informed that on Monday during the Provost Council, a couple of announcements and materials will be discussed in detail. So if you believe this is of relation to what you were doing, please make sure you communicate with your deans and chairs about that. So first, Douglasville and Newnan are completing 5-year plans for their classes offerings. And this is important because we have not had stable, consistent offerings of classes plan with projections until now. The first presentation on Monday will be about Douglasville and their 5-year plan, and we hope in February, a Provost Council to have a presentation for the Newnan's 5-year plan. In addition, information about faculty qualifications would be very critical for our reaffirmation process. 92% of all institutions receive citations related to faculty qualifications. There is a specific format for providing that information, a table that will be shared with the Provost Council on Monday. And I wanted you to know that the classes that will be offered this fall of 22 and spring of 23, each and every class, whether full-time or part-time assignment of a faculty, every faculty who teaches anything during fall of this year and spring of 23 will have to provide, we will have to provide qualification information starting from their undergraduate and graduate degrees, courses that they have taken in order to teach the classes they're teaching with us. In other words, just saying I have a PhD may not be sufficient to teach chemistry. That PhD has to be in chemistry, or you have to have a PhD course, PhD level course in the specific area you are teaching. So we will have more discussions on that, but I wanted you to be prepared that this will be coming up. And we will be gathering such information. We may have most of it already somewhere in the institution, but your deans and chairs may be working with each and every one of you because we have to thoughtfully assign classes that match faculty qualifications or rather assign instructors with appropriate qualifications to each and every class. So I wanted this to be known to you, because this is about the time when your chairs are starting discussions and deciding your future assignments. So these were my two announcements about the 5-year course planning on the two campuses in Douglasville and Newnan, and about the faculty qualifications, which is standard 6-2A for our information. So thank you for your attention and for the time provided to me. And if there are any questions for me, I am ready to respond. Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Akins. And I will open the floor to questions as you requested. We're very happy to do that. I do have a question for you as a follow-up to the last point that you made. Who will be making the decision regarding the qualifications? Will that be the department chairs? Will it be, that is a say, chemistry example that you mentioned? Will it be the chair of that science department? Will it be the dean of Coxie? Will it be you as vice provost? Will it be the provost himself? Where is that decision regarding faculty qualifications going to be made?
It should be done at the chair level. However, there will be reviews, we hope, by the deans, also by the new executive director of accreditation and quality enhancement. And of course, I would be very interested in reviewing samples just to make sure that we are having this covered, with the potential that 9 out of 10 schools are getting excited on this, and knowing what is required, knowing how SACS-COC will be judging us. It makes sense that we are proactive and we prepare and we'll look it over. So please do not be surprised if you get your assignments and right before classes, we have discussion with your chair or dean if it has trickled up in this case, that there may be a question and we may need additional information. So it is not anything else but crossing all T's and checking and dotting all I's in checking for our readiness for accreditation, because it is in a year and several months that we are providing our documentation. September 8th, 2023 is when we are providing our package. And that package contains information on each and every single course taught on any of our 3 campuses in any modality, online, face-to-face, hybrid, by a faculty who are full-time, part-time, or otherwise hired, which also means that instructors hired who are teaching a course, but otherwise administrators, those faculty's qualifications will have to be presented as well. So if you are interested at the next faculty Senate meeting, I can provide the exact table with qualifications and considerations that I will be presenting on Monday to the Provost Council. And that may complete the cycle and answer many questions.
Yeah, that would be good. I think that would be helpful because, I mean, right now, of course, chairs do approve all hires. So any instructor that was hired to teach a course, if there are questions about it, the chair would have made that decision to hire the person. And so the question is, what are the additional levels of scrutiny that are now being introduced? So I think any specific information on that would probably be of interest to some faculty. So yes, if you could bring some of that information to the next Senate meeting, that would be excellent. Any other?
I'm delighted to, Dr. Williams. Thank you.
Yeah, and I just received a chat message asking for a follow-up question on this for you, Dr. Akins. The question is, it is usually acceptable for a faculty member to prove credentials through publications. Will that be an option? So I think the hypothetical here is, let's suppose that a person's PhD was in a particular field, say American diplomatic history, and they've started publishing widely in cultural history of sub-Saharan Africa. That wasn't their PhD field, but they've published several articles in the field. Is that sufficient to prove qualification to teach a course?
We can use such matters, and it will depend if it is in a newspaper or peer-reviewed journal. So that would matter. Also, research that has been published on a topic and other functions with national organizations, or being considered an expert in your field and invited to different meetings. So we will have more opportunities to discuss this, but I wanted you to know that there will be a such thing going on. The chairs and the associate deans and deans will be discussing this on Monday. And I truly believe, especially based on the notes to Dr. Preston, that sometimes information may not be trickling instantly and take some time to trickle to every faculty. I would like to offer to have this discussed here in the February meeting so everyone is aware and we have adequate preparation.
Yeah, that would be great, and I do appreciate that. I just received another message from someone saying that faculty credentials are supposed to be uploaded into Zytrax and then they can be accessible there. And so it sounds like the proposal that you're suggesting is going to create unnecessary work for department chairs, because in addition to uploading faculty credentials into Zytrax, now they're going to have to fill out these additional forms, go through this separate channel. Is that what is being proposed? An additional channel of information that's duplicating something that's already being uploaded into Zytrax?
If you upload all information about all courses and respective qualifications for each and every course in Zytrax, then there will be no need for additional anything. However, we do have a format presented to us by SACS-UC that we have to follow. And we do need the information per course, not only the general qualifications, but per course. And if we agree, we can all upload this into Zytrax. Yet at this moment, it is not being set up for that level of detail and attention.
Thank you. Any other questions for the Vice Provost? Seeing no raised hands. Thank you, Dr. Akins. Appreciate that.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Okay, well, I'm really pleased to welcome Dr. Ela to our Faculty Senate meeting. Dr. Ela kindly agreed to talk to us about the work of ORSP, and in particular, the questions that faculty have about the staff turnover and how that's going to affect faculty applications for grants or administration of grants that have already been applied for and received. And so Dr. Ela is going to give us an overview of exactly what's happening, and then we'll open the floor for some questions, which he's kindly agreed to take. So Dr. Ela, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I hope you can hear me. In order to make sure that my numbers matches the numbers which I reported and what is being recorded, I'm looking at my notes right now. For last 7 months, we have had 41 proposals submitted, asking over $18 million. Last 7 months means the end of this month. That 41 may go more. There is 2 more which is pending, and I'm waiting to see if they will be submitted on time. And that compared to the whole year last year was 61 proposal total. And the year before was 75 proposal total. So we are, even half of theirs is much less than what we have here. And last year, the total request was 5.3 million. The year before was 5.5 million. And even the year before that was about 6.5 million. So the sum of the last 3 years is not even equal to what has been asked this year. And total amount of funding so far, we are way ahead of last year. So we anticipate that we may be 2, if not 4 times as much as last year, depending on how the results will be next 6 months. That's next 5 months, let's call it. That's because of you, because of faculty, staff, and because of the administrators, because some of these are by administrators, who submitted proposals. First of all, I wanted to say thank you all for being patient with us, because there is a lot of work associated with this, and so many took responsibility to help. If you recall, we have been looking for post-award, 2 post-award. I promised that I will have 2 full-time post-award to help the existing grants so that we can help reduce the load from the faculty. And since we lost the only one which we had, let's say end of December, by 1st of January, we were able to post a position toward the last 10 days or maybe 11 days of December. And we had applicants who applied. Thanks to the search committee, we finally made a decision. And I would like to welcome Dr. Nelson, which some of you guys are familiar with Harry Nelson, as a member of the sponsored research. And I have a detail of his background, which I send it to deans. And if you would like, I will send you what I send about his background and why he is perfectly fit. And he started his job at this position on Tuesday. So if you look at the automatic response email, which comes from Ms. McDaniel, used to reference Ms. Gibbs, thanks to Ms. Gibbs helping us, and also Provost Office. Now it says Dr. Harry Nelson. And Harry has been meeting with me more than, I would say, half a dozen times a day, by phone, email, by face-to-face. We have been going item by item of things which needs to be taken care of immediately, so we can zero out our list of pending transactions. And I would say, Harry might be online, I would say that we will be finished with most of those, what was in the backlog for the last few weeks. On the pre-award, we have one person identified, the search committee communicated with me, and the offer is being made. And I'm waiting until hopefully by Monday to see if the start date is February 1st. So there are 2 more positions, one more on the post-award and one more on the pre-award, which will be filled. But we are not going to stop there. I have communicated with the deans to provide additional support to dean's office, so that those who are supporting faculty proposals, doing the data entry, such as requisition, travel, budget transfer, to reimburse the college for the additional duties individuals are doing to help the faculty. We have been discussing this back and forth. So this is essentially a stopgap measure which we put in place. And another 2 effort, one of them is supporting faculty proposal writing. This is, I brought it up with the deans, and I'm hoping that at least I receive 1 proposal per college. If they're identified individual faculty, I like to call it faculty fellow, because what I requested was that faculty who's going to help with the proposal writing of that college. Maybe there is 2. We have to see how many proposal comes in. The college must provide them at least 1 course release, and I will provide some stipend so that we can expand the proposal writing support for the faculty. And one item which Provost mentioned is support and innovation in teaching fellowships, which he essentially went through the detail of it. But this proposal, which is due, I think, February 7th, this is the notice which we send out. This proposal, let me see if I can pull it up. The faculty should submit 1-page proposal describing in which course they are using new technology, which is all audiovisual systems which has been in place in the various classrooms. And they should also address expected outcome of the new approach and a brief statement of how they see their approach being applied to other courses. this statement and the detailed description is submitted to all deans, and it will be posted on the Monday Provost newsletter. So stand by when you see it. Please apply for this, because we are going to provide stipends, which is mentioned there, how much it is, for these white papers, essentially, these one-page proposals, and we will be selecting about half a dozen of them. We haven't even discussed, these are so fresh that we haven't discussed the detail of the evaluation, but you saw the 3 criteria on the evaluation, what I mentioned. One is what course it is being applied, expected outcome, the second, and the third one is how this approach being applied to other courses. And besides this, I'm open to address any question you may have, as much as I can.
Okay, excellent. Well, thank you. There's a question that's just come in as a follow-up to the very last thing you said, I think, which is what will the selection process look like, and will there be a committee?
I'm hoping to be a committee, because that's much better. You know, one person or two persons reviewing these things, it won't be as effective as a committee inputs, because you will have variety of way of looking at these one pages.
And I do have a couple of pre-submitted questions that I think you partly addressed, but I just want to make sure that we know what the situation is. So I think a primary concern that faculty had going into this session, of course, was staffing level in your office. And so the question was, what is the staffing level in your office right now? And if I understand correctly, right now, Harry Nelson has just come in as of this week. So that would be, that's the level of staffing that you have right now, correct? And then you're hiring 2 new people, one pre-award person, another post-award position that needs to be filled, that will be filled soon. I may have missed some additional staffing changes or people coming into the office, but does that describe sort of where we are right now?
So we have Dr. Nelson, who will be there, who's there already. We have been going back and forth through this list. And there will be one more person, which I'm hoping that 1st of February start her work. And there is 2 more, which I'm hoping we can get them in place within the next 4 weeks. But you know how hard it is to find qualified people. But then I also mentioned support for the faculty who are working at each college, helping with the proposal writing, and support for each college who provide the data entry support for the funded research, because there are many projects which they need help.
And when do you expect those people might be in place at the college level? Because that you're talking about quite a few people, I guess, if we're talking about one for each college. And of course, some colleges are larger than others. And so CACSI, for example, I imagine that person is going to have to do a lot compared to some people in smaller colleges. And so what is the timetable for bringing those people in?
What I like to see is yesterday, because the reason I didn't start yesterday, because I didn't have people to help me with some of the other activities. But Harry coming in, it reduces a big load, and having at least 1 or 2 colleagues from another college or helping me with some other activities, that reduced the load. What I'm hoping is by mid-February to have individuals identified through deans, because I talked to the deans and I said, I need the deans to make recommendations of, look, this is the one which we want to invest and has time. And because dean and the chair would be the ones who will be finally providing the release time to individuals. I have seen 2 colleges who have initiated such an activities already. They have people who are helping, like a proposal writing group. And I agree with you about some colleges are large, and we discussed about this one. So I'm open to more than 1 recommendations, because that's a lot of work. It's not something that one person can, in some colleges, even they're small. I have another college which is small, but they have some quite a few people who are asking for help in proposal development. But I'm open. So I'd like to see what I receive within the next, both these cases are February, by early February, which means February 7th, similar to the other one. So we can make a decision within a week and move forward. This other one does not require a detailed review. Essentially, if the college is asking for more than one, then I have to go back and see if I have resources, because all goes back to resources.
Yeah, I'm sure that is an issue with resources. I received one other pre-submitted question, which has to do with retention in ORSP. I think a number of faculty were sort of taken aback by the rapidity with which quite a number of staff from the office left in short order. And so the question is, how do you plan to make whatever changes are necessary to attract and keep employees in the office so that we don't have a revolving door in ORSP?
Well, nobody likes revolving doors, but I cannot stop people from getting good offer, because that happens. I don't recall any of them got bad offer. They get better salary and they make a decision. I can't stop them, but I can go back and negotiate with HR and say, look, I'm going to lose this person. I can't do this. And it is common. I know that the previous person before me had to do that for a couple of people here. And this one was much unexpected for me. Otherwise, I would have gone and done the same thing.
Good. Any questions that anyone else wants to ask Dr. Ela? I do not see any raised hands, so it doesn't look like anyone else is jumping in to ask a question. So thank you, Dr. Ela. I really appreciate your time.
Thank you very much.
Well, we will now go on to the rest of the agenda, the committee reports. And I believe our first report comes from UPC with Karen Graffius, and just make sure that Karen is here. I don't see her in the.
I'm here,
you are
Dan.
here. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. Thank you. So
Sure.
The floor is yours.
All right. So our first proposals are coming from CACSI. The first one from the Department of Anthropology, Sociology, and Psychology. And this is a request to modify the social and behavioral health BS degree. This is essentially to fulfill the need for additional courses in areas 1C, 2A, and 2B. And this involves adding several anthropology courses, which will be part of areas A1 and 2A. It also involves adding political science 3201, which will be part of area 2B. And it also involves moving one psychology class and two sociology classes from electives to area 1A. Any questions about that one from anyone?
Yeah, very good. I don't see any raised hands. So as always, with the UPC and GPC curriculum modification proposals, if you'd like to jump in, just flag me by the raised hand feature. Otherwise, we'll just proceed straight to a vote. So I think we're ready for the vote on this. You approve the modifications to the social and behavioral health BS, and it looks like it passes. So back to you, Karen.
All right, and moving on from the Department of Art, History, and Philosophy, there's a request to revise the Art BA degree, and this is similar to what we have voted on. In fact, it's the same proposals that we voted on at our last meeting, and that's just adding the two pathways for students to complete their language requirements.
Very good. And seeing no raised hands on this, I think we are probably ready to proceed to a vote. And that passes as well. Back to you, Karen.
Okay, and then the next proposal is from the College of Education, the Department of Early Childhood through Secondary Education. This is a request to revise ECED 4251. This involves adding a prerequisite, or actually a choice of two prerequisites, ECED 4263 or ECSE 4763, and also involves the current co-requisites will be eliminated and replaced with the lab class that goes with 4251. It also involves changing the hours, just actually redesignating the hours. So two of those will be lecture hours and one is the lab hour.
Very good. I think we're ready for the vote. And that passes. Karen?
Okay, and then next from the Department of Sport Management, Wellness, and Physical Education, we are going to take these items A through E in a block. These items are all either revising courses or a new course request. This is all part of the Board of Regents mandate to lower the hours in all education programs to 180. The first one is a new course request, which is the Phys Ed 2300. That's going to replace the education class 2110 that's no longer required by the Board of Regents. And then the rest of the courses are all revised course requests and just has to do with lowering the course hours in order to get to that 120 hours. That's part of the requirements now.
Very good. So I think we're ready for a block vote on those items.
So the way that I did this poll was it was a combo vote because did you talk about the program modification too, Karen?
I did not do the program modification yet. We can do that too. Do you want me to do that
Would
as
you
well,
go ahead
Colleen?
and do that? Because I set
Sure.
it up as a combo vote.
Gotcha. Okay. And so, yeah, the PE ed program is just, it's all part of lowering those numbers or the course hours to 120 because it's an education curriculum. That's part of that Board of Regents mandate.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, so we'll do a block and combo vote, I guess.
Oh, Esther did it.
Yeah, we talked about this before, but I can.
Yeah, I
switch
just was
back to the other
confused.
one next time. I think we have
Thanks.
another one coming up too.
Yes, we do have one more. And I think that one's special for you, Colleen. This is a request to add XIDES 2300 free to Kalo's World. And it looks like a really interesting class. Colleen, I don't know if you want to say anything about it or not, or we could just go ahead and vote.
I'm good. We can go ahead and vote.
Okay, so the previous measure passed with the COE proposals, and now we're ready for a vote on XIDES 2300. Measure passes. Okay, you have one information item for us, I think.
Yep. So happy to announce that Nancy Capone will serve as the chair for UPC for the 22-23 academic year. And we appreciate so much her stepping in to fill that role for us.
Yeah, we definitely appreciate that. I know the UPC chair has a challenging job, especially during the middle months of the fall semester. It can probably seem overwhelming at times. It requires exceptional organizational skills to keep everything running. So thank you, Karen, and appreciate Nancy's willingness to serve. So now we will go to GPC with Dean Anise, and we have several proposals from the GPC for a vote. Dana, the floor is yours.
Okay, well, the first action item is from CACSI, and it's from the Department of Computing and Mathematics. The first request is to add the internship course. This is new course will allow for experience, but it's also going to support what is the second item, which is in the support of face-to-face classes in order to attract students and also more international students.
I think we're probably ready to launch the vote. It looks like it passes. So back to you, Dina.
Okay, our next items are from the College of Education. The first one is from the Department of Early Childhood through Secondary Education. They're modifying their Master of Arts in Teaching for the concentrations listed and reducing the credit hours to 30 in light of the teacher shortage, and also to bring it in line with the Board of Regents, what the BOR has for graduate programs.
Okay, well, we'll launch the vote. And that passes.
Okay. The next item is from the Department of Leadership, Research, and School Improvement. And the first two items are the Educational Leadership Tier 1 and 2 certification programs. Right now, they're standalone certificates and they're only counted through Georgia PSC. So putting them, it's not adding any new courses, but this will allow the program to count them as degree completers and also for them to be recognized by the USG system.
Okay, so I think this may be, is this a split vote where we're taking the first two as a block and the second one or
last one,
C
yeah,
as
just, yeah.
Okay, we'll launch the vote on all of these items.
Okay.
And it looks like both measures pass. So I think that concludes your curricular modification proposals, but there are a couple other items that your committee also has brought forward for a vote, I believe. So let's talk about the graduate faculty policy status.
Did we also vote on the school improvement EDD?
Yes, that was included in this combo vote.
Okay, got it. So there's a couple of items that we brought forward for a vote, and this is just a policy on graduate faculty status. We were notified too that right now it's just a blanket award of faculty status, and we don't have a procedure in place, which would make us in violation of SACS for our SACS reaffirmation visit. So a subcommittee from GPC worked on this. And actually, we looked at our peer institutions, but also a previous iteration that we had for different categories of graduate faculty status and put forward this proposal.
Okay, any questions or comments that anyone has regarding this proposal for a definition for graduate faculty, the people who would be approved to teach graduate courses? I do not see any hands raised, anyone who wants to jump in on the conversation. So we may be ready for a vote on this item. Colleen, you can launch the poll, I think. We approve the modifications to the graduate faculty policy.
Passes.
It looks like it does. Thank you. And I guess the final item that you have from your committee, Dina, is are some updates to the graduate catalog.
Yes. Okay, there are a couple of updates in terms of the current policy and also changing of policy. The first one, it's the maximum of 6 semester graduate credit hours really is maybe transferred unless otherwise allowed, may be transferred from another accredited institution. What they're specifying in the second bullet point is the period for transfer credit will be calculated from the first day of the first semester of the degree program at the University of West Georgia. That was actually specifying right now we needed to, the graduate school needed to be consistent with when that would be calculated. So that was just clarifying that language.
Okay, I don't see any questions on this, so I think we're probably ready for a vote.
Is this for all of them, Colleen, or?
Yeah, it was. You want me to stop it and you can talk about the next one?
Yeah, I can talk about the next one.
Okay, let me.
Okay, didn't realize. Okay.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
So, Council Ethel.
Yeah, and the next one is the grading system for graduate students with incomplete grades. And I've had a request for just a friendly amendment in the language. What this does with the proposed change is we're saying like, but for let's see, this symbol indicates that a student was doing satisfactory work, but for non-academic reasons beyond his or her control was unable to fulfill the requirements of the course. One language we need to add is that they must be near, like it must be close to completing the course for an incomplete to be awarded. We did specify that an I must be removed by the completion of work within the time set by the professor. So for example, if there's a year program, if a professor wants to set a shorter time frame then they can, but it can't exceed 1 calendar year from the last day of class is the I will be turn into an F. So I think the one proposed that a student was doing satisfactory work and close to completing the course. We just need to add that language to be sure if we're able to add that here.
Well, okay, I guess my question on that one would be, what does that mean? Close to completing the course. So, I mean, we can think of any number of hypotheticals, but in courses that are based heavily on, say, on a final term paper that's worth 70% of the grade, and the term paper isn't in, so 30% of the grade is in. So is that close to completing the course, or is it not completing the course? I guess that's the question. Do we want to leave it? I guess if we include this, is that language going to be interpreted solely by the instructor of the course? Is it going to be interpreted by someone else? I guess those are some questions that that I would want us to address, or at least think about before.
Language. The suggestion came from Myrna Gantner because it was more of a procedural check anyway, like doing satisfactory work was already there, but like probably more close to the end of the course, because if it's more at the beginning of the course, one of the things that she did bring up was at that point, if it's early on and there's too much work to complete, then the student should technically be taking a hardship withdrawal. So I don't know if it's more timing or,
It sounds like that would be an issue of timing. So the question would, I guess, so by close to completing the course, I instinctively interpreted that in terms of percentage of work completed, but it sounds like what she may have been thinking about was the time in the calendar that it needs to be awarded, say in the last month of the semester. But I guess the question is, I mean, the I is actually filed when final grades are due, right? You cannot submit. I mean, you can tell a student in advance you're going to get an I, but you can't actually submit the incomplete grade until that last week and a half or 2 weeks of the semester when grade reports are open. So I guess, I mean, obviously this is open to discussion. I'm not, I'm just the chair of the discussion, not, but I guess I would just ask if we're going to adopt the friendly amendment, that we talk about what we mean by that and how that's going to be interpreted, especially at a time, I think, as we all know, where a lot of policies are getting increased scrutiny by administrators. And so, any restrictions we put on ourselves are going to be interpreted by someone else. And so I want to make sure we know how those will be interpreted and if we're comfortable with that interpretation. Any thoughts on this? Whether we want to, okay, so one question that just came in from the chat. One question that I have, the faculty member writes, pertains to students who have military deployment. And the question is what to do with those students. Do they get an incomplete? I assume the answer is yes. That's what I have done in the past with students in similar situations. I think I need to check on this to see if there's another statement in the handbook that specifically mandates consideration for students on military deployment. I know that there's language in the handbook that says that students can be absent from class to vote to fulfill their civic duty. And I don't know if we've actually put language in the handbook on military. I'd have to check on that. But assuming that assuming that the military deployment situation needs to be addressed with an incomplete, then the question is, does that need to be in this policy as well? I see a statement in the handbook saying if we're going to continue to fine tune this, we just need to send this back to the committee, which is probably true. I mean, we can adopt friendly amendments on the fly, but we're getting, especially with the military deployment question, we're getting into more substantive issues where we can't necessarily start rewriting this. So I guess, Dana, the decision is yours as the person who's bringing this to the floor. I guess I would say that you have a couple of choices here. One is to just say, we don't want to deal with all this. This is a policy that your committee has created, and it's fine as you see it, and it can be brought to the floor for a vote, and we can vote it up or down. Another is, since you proposed that friendly amendment at the beginning, I think we could technically probably put that in. I mean, you're just talking there about a clause of maybe 3 or 4 words. I expressed some concern about the vagueness of the issue, but if you really like that, you could bring it to the floor as is, or you could withdraw it from the floor, and we wouldn't have to vote on it, and you would just take it back to the committee to rework. Or we could adopt this whole thing, because I mean there were other parts of this package as well, and it would just be adopted as is, and then next month you could come in with further revisions for that specific paragraph on the incomplete grades. If and that way we would at least have everything else, because there were other things that you wanted to do with this. I see Craig, our parliamentarian, says, I think going back to GPC would be appropriate. Before putting you on the spot to answer, let me just recognize the hand that's raised from Scott Gordon. Scott, you have a comment or question?
A question, Dan. So the awarding of an incomplete ultimately is a decision that the instructor makes, right? The instructor can decide to award it or not. And I just, in my experience, I've awarded incompletes when, what the student had left to do would not fit into the definition of anybody's definition of close, but I knew the student well, and I had an agreement and an arrangement with them as to how we were going to work together to finish the course material, and I was comfortable doing it. So I'm not even sure that it makes sense to put such language in, but to make it very clear that it is up to the instructor's discretion.
Yeah, I appreciate the comment. I would say that if we're not bound by USG policy, or other handbook policy requiring limitations on the incomplete grade, then the question would be, if we're going to limit ourselves and how the incomplete can be administered, is there a good justification for it? I guess that's what the GPC would have to determine, if there are further limitations being placed, that is, where are these limitations coming from? Are they coming from a mandate from somewhere? Or are they coming from the committee's view of best practices? And then we could determine that. Obviously, if there's a USG policy specifying how an incomplete should be administered, we have to comply with that. If it's our own determination, then we have a lot more flexibility, and we can debate the issue of pedagogy. And it may be that this is strictly pedagogical, in which case we could have a discussion. And my guess is, just based on my own personal sense of where faculty are and the comments that have been raised, that a significant number of faculty are probably going to be skeptical of attempts to limit their ability to use incomplete grades if there's no other limiting factors. So that would be something for the GPC to discuss, but obviously GPC can create a proposal to bring to the Senate in any way they want, but those are probably questions that would come to the GPC.
Would it be possible to do this? Because I can withdraw, too, and we can take that back to the GPC to revisit, because there may be a couple other graduate catalog changes upcoming. I don't know if there's anything on the third 1 and 3 that there were questions, because the one on the admissions policy regarding transcripts was for those who are applying for a postmaster's degree or certification only need to submit transcripts from degree granting institutions, because sometimes a student may have attended 14 institutions, and trying to track down all those transcripts would be difficult. So I don't know if that's possible. I can take 2 off the table and back to GPC to talk about.
So Colleen, because I'm using a laptop, I'm not able to easily just kind of switch back and forth and see everything. Could you scroll back to the top of this proposal, and then we can just kind of slowly go through this to see exactly what we're looking at, because I'm just going to look at the red. So, okay, so the first thing I think is about transfer credit. Period for transfer credit will be calculated from the first day of the first semester of the degree program at UWG. No one expressed any reservation about that, I don't believe. So then we can go down. Lots of questions about incomplete. That's going to be a hot button item. I think that the current proposal, I mean, if you want to just propose what you have here with no modifications to this, that would probably pass, I believe. No one expressed any reservation to the language that you have here. It's just the additional modifications, particularly that clause that you wanted to introduce as a friendly amendment.
Okay.
That's going to be the contentious issue, and that's probably going to result in a split vote on the question, possibly failure. So then if we can scroll down, let's see, we've got the next thing we have is, only just submit transcripts from degree granting institutions. I did not hear anyone object to that. If someone, of course, does, you're welcome to raise your hand, but no one, I think, is expressed an objection to streamlining this admissions process. I think that's, generally sounds fine to a lot of people, I suspect. Okay, if we can go down, I think that's the end, right? That's
it. That's it.
Okay. Okay, so I think, Dina, that you could get a vote for passage if you just want to bring this document as presented to the floor right now. In other words, if you just say, okay, this is fine. On the other hand, if you feel like the committee really wanted something that's not written here, but further modifications to the incomplete policy, that's where this is going to be contentious. That's where it's going to probably go beyond the boundaries of a friendly amendment. Some people feel it's introducing something very different. It's changing current practice, and it's going to result in a lot of debate. So the question is, do you like what you submitted on last Friday? And do you want to just say, let's vote on it and forget the friendly amendment? We'll just vote on what's written here. Or do you think your committee would really want you to, I guess, make modifications that are not in print here, in which case you can defer it for a month and come back, but you kind of know where the Senate stands. You know that some people have somewhat strong opinions on different sides, and that particular friendly amendment that you mentioned is probably going to result in more discussion than what the original proposal would have. And I see a message saying without the friendly amendment.
The friendly amendment is good. I say I'll withdraw the friendly amendment.
Okay. Okay, well, that simplifies things, I think. And so we will vote on exactly what you see written here. No friendly amendments, no changes to this, to what you see in your agenda, in the addendum 4. And so I think we are ready for a vote. I don't see any other comments on this. So we'll start the poll.
All right, I have to relaunch. Let me see if it'll do it. All right, should be relaunched. Yep.
Okay, it looks like it passes. There are 4 no's and 1 abstention, but it's a solid majority that's voting for it. Okay. Well, thank you, Dina. Appreciate this. So now I think we move to the Rules Committee. Angie?
Okay. I am bringing before you a proposal to make the virtual modality that we've been using legal, for us to have that as one of our modalities to use for the Senate meetings, and the idea of sending a proxy who can vote for you. Neither of those 2 things are mentioned in the policies and procedures, and we want to make sure that we are in compliance with that. So we have added that meetings may be held virtually if it is determined by the Senate that the virtual modality is the best venue for accomplishing the work assigned to the Senate and its committees. If a Senate member is unable to attend a Senate meeting, a faculty member in his or her, as a voting member in his or her place. If a proxy is attending in the place of a senator, then the senator must notify the executive secretary that a proxy will be attending the scheduled Senate meeting. The rest is the same.
Yes.
So that allows us to have a proxy and to hold our meetings virtually.
Yes. Yeah, thank you for your work on this. So this came, for those people who are not in the loop on this, and that's probably most of the people here, you probably remember that the Senate voted last April, I believe it was, to hold virtual meetings for this year. And we've been using proxies in the Senate since before I took this position. It's a very old practice. However, it was brought to our attention last month in a meeting with the University Council that because our bylaws don't give us permission to use the virtual modality, and because they don't talk about proxies and give permission for proxy votes, any virtual meeting could be invalidated, or any proxy votes could be invalidated with a legal challenge if someone wanted to do that, unless we modify our bylaws. So the Rules Committee worked in very short order to propose this bylaw modification. We can't actually change the bylaws without a general faculty vote. So after we pass all of this, we will have a general faculty vote probably in April. In the meantime, we'll continue doing what we've always done, which is meeting with the use of proxies, and of course, as of this year, doing the Zoom meetings. So that will continue, but we do need to bring our bylaws into compliance with that, and appreciate the Rules Committee doing this. And so if this passes, it would just allow us to continue functioning like most of us thought we were able to function up to this point anyway. Any comments or questions on this before we go to a vote? Seeing none, I think we're ready for the vote.
All right, where's my poll? Where's my poll? Okay, hold on for a minute. I can't get the poll to work. 1 second.
Or actually, there's one question that just came in saying, should we have a paragraph break right after the red additions and before special meetings? So we have regular meetings all the way down to senator must notify the executive secretary, and then special meetings may be called by the president of the university. The implicit argument there from that question is that that's talking about something different, and it therefore should be a separate paragraph. And I'm not sure on that, because the thing is, we're using this outline format, subheading
This
A.
was the way
meeting.
special meetings were. We added in right after determined by the Senate. And the very next sentence started, special meetings may be called by the president. So I just added it in, but I have no problem putting a break in there. I don't think it changes what substantially it says, but that's fine with me. I don't think any of us have any problems.
Okay, someone said separate paragraph looks better. Yvonne.
Yeah.
I just have a quick comment, friendly amendment. I don't even know if it's necessary or not, but where it says, if a proxy is attending in the place of a senator, no, pardon me, before that. If a Senate member is unable to attend a Senate meeting, a faculty proxy may be appointed by the senator to attend, may I suggest to attend and vote? Because a proxy means you have the authority to vote. So we don't need to say in attending the place of a senator as a voting person. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Just shorten it a little bit to attend the meeting and vote in his or her place.
Okay, attend the meeting.
I have no problem with that, wordsmithing, sure.
Okay, so where is this, just so that I get it? It's where it says a faculty proxy may be appointed by the senator to attend the meeting as a voting member. So change it to attend the meeting and vote.
Exactly.
As a voting member.
To attend the meeting and vote.
Take
away the voting member part.
Okay, so change.
Wait a minute. So I think you're saying, well, I want to make sure. So are we saying to attend the meeting and vote?
And vote in his or her place.
Okay. And then we get the.
Take out as a and turn it into a.
Vote in their place. Yeah, I think that makes sense, because the person would, if you're a proxy, do you vote as how your original person would have voted instead of how you yourself would vote?
Yeah, that's the intention.
And the proxy automatically gives you the authority to vote. So we don't need to repeat as a person who can vote.
Okay, so it would be changed to attending in the, wait, where is it?
Attend the meeting.
By the center, attend the meeting and vote to her place.
Exactly.
Yeah, and then there are two comments that have come in requesting it to be changed to their rather than her.
Wait, okay, so change
even
his
better.
or her.
Change his or her to their.
Okay. A new sheet.
Attend the meeting and vote in their place.
Attend the.
It's my old English thing of a single noun should be replaced by a single preposition.
Yeah. Well, and the truth of the matter is, our entire faculty handbook was written at a time when thinking was different on that. And so if we were to systematically revise the entire faculty handbook, but I think everyone knows that, but I think some people are suggesting if we're going to add new things to the faculty handbook, that they would prefer to not.
Sure,
not
that's
repeat
fine too.
Other pronouns. There's then a question that just came in privately to me. Are there any special privileges due to a voting member? In other words, we've deleted the term voting member. Is voting member a technical term, which I think it is in our bylaw. I mean, there are certain people who are voting members and certain people who are in this, who come to Senate meetings as ex officio members. And so voting members, but technically proxies are not voting members in that
The
sense. I mean,
proxy carries, if I may just add, the proxy carries whatever authority that other person had. You're not granting more authority or less authority. So a proxy is a person representing and enacting any and exerting any authority that the other person gave them. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah, and there's probably no language on this that's going to perfectly capture everything, because of course proxies sometimes do more than just attend the meeting. Proxies can introduce resolutions on behalf of another member. And I mean, speaking personally, I think we would actually be better off with the phrase voting member, because even though it sounds awkward because it is a technical term, you know, voting member has all sorts of opportunities at the meeting. You know, you can introduce resolutions, you can give committee reports, you can do other things, so I don't know. I mean, I don't have strong feelings on this, but I just wonder if we've limited ourselves too much by just using the phrase attend the meeting and vote. I suspect it would never be an issue, but on the remote chance that someone could challenge someone bringing a resolution to the floor as a proxy, I don't know. I just wonder if we might be better off with leaving the original language as is, except for the his or her that was already changed.
Do you want me to make a poll for the friendly?
No, then I'll remove the friendly amendment. What's there is not limiting. So as long as it's not limiting, I'm fine. I was just thought that we could make it shorter, that's all, but not limiting. And I think you're right. I think in case somebody doesn't know what a proxy is really, and the authority a proxy can have, we would avoid complications in the future of someone challenging, hey, what are you speaking for when you're not the senator, for example, by leaving that in. So I delete my friendly amendment.
Okay, so what I'll do instead is I'll just change the language to there from his or her.
And then you can make it 2 paragraphs.
Okay, so 2 paragraphs and non-binary.
Thank you, Colleen.
Yes, thank you. So I think that addresses everyone's concerns.
And thank you as always, everybody. More minds are always better than a few minds.
You're awesome.
So yeah, and thank you, Angie, for doing work in very short order on this. I know that request or that statement from the University Council just caught me off guard. I think it caught the committee off guard. But you worked very quickly to try to bring our bylaws into compliance with this. And of course, the general faculty will have an opportunity to vote on this in the near future, but the Senate can start the process today. So I think we're ready for a vote. Let me just clarify what the vote is. The vote is for the modified language that you see here with only 2 exceptions. The phrase his or her has been replaced by their with that friendly amendment, and there is a paragraph break following the statements in red right before the phrase special meetings. Beyond that, what you see here is what you're voting on. I do not see any other raised hands or messages in the chat, so I think we are ready for the vote.
All right, I'm running it. Please run. Come on, you can do it. Do you see it?
Yes.
Okay, passes.
Very good. So I think that concludes.
No, I've got to talk about quorum.
Oh yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Go ahead. This is so information item. Tell us what you're planning to do and what you'd like the Senate to help you with.
Okay. The other thing that was brought up at that same meeting is that we need to define what we mean by quorum. right now, the quorum reads in the Policies and Procedures Manual that a quorum for the Senate and its committees shall be 50% of the membership of the respective bodies. We were informed that quorum can mean whatever we want it to mean. So it can mean 50% of those in attendance, 50% of elected members, 50% of what. So we're gonna, at our meeting this week, the Rules Committee is gonna tackle this statement. And I guess I wanted some feedback from the Senate before we get ready to tackle it, as to if you want to change what quorum means. Are you happy with what quorum means now? How can we clarify it to make it plain what shall count as a quorum?
Yeah, so we'll open this up to the floor, and I'll just say that in my time as Faculty Senate Chair, we have not usually been at risk for not meeting quorum in the Senate. We usually have a very strong turnout, but I do know that the story has been different for some committees, because especially as people juggle complicated schedules, and those committees are often fairly small anyway, if you have a handful of people that can't make it, you have an issue. And there's also, of course, this question of what does it mean membership? A lot of these committees have quite a few ex officio members. Are they counted in the membership or not? So those can be, those are issues to discuss. I guess this was something the University Council brought up about the issue of quorum, saying, you know, we're welcome to redefine that if we want. I see one statement in the chat, meaning quorum means 50% of the full body plus one. Any other comments on this? Again, this is not something we're voting on. This is something that the Rules Committee is going to draft for us, bring back perhaps next month. But Angie is asking senators to weigh in on how we would like to understand quorum. Another comment, I don't think quorum would require 50% of voting members specifically. Well, I appreciate
the feedback. We'll certainly discuss it in rules this week and have something to present to you next Senate meeting. Thanks, everybody.
Well, thanks, Angie. Appreciate that. We do not have any old business or new business that I'm aware of today. Nothing that requires a vote that we haven't already voted on. Are there any announcements that anyone wants to share with us before we close the Senate agenda? Shelley,
I have a question, Dan. Dr. Akins, are you still here? Because she's in the participants, but
she is here.
Okay.
I think there's just a lot of confusion about what she said about Sachs reaffirmation and the proving our credentials to teach. I think people are now thinking it's going to be very different than what it has been in the past, when we've always had to do this. And now people are a little worried that they're going to have to prove that their PhD or MFA or terminal degree in their field isn't enough to teach the courses in their field. So I was hoping she might clarify that, what she said.
Yeah, Dr. Akins, if you're here, we would love you to weigh in on this question. So if you're here, you can turn your camera and mic on. but seeing no response, I guess this will be something to ask at the next Senate meeting.
Well, I can ask at
certainly
the
as a follow-up
Provost
as
Council.
well.
I can ask at the Provost Council meeting, but I was just hoping she might clarify since she said it at this meeting and there are
Right.
people who are
Yeah.
already getting concerned about this.
Right. I would agree. So if she would like to weigh in on this here, that would be excellent. But seeing no response, I guess we'll have to defer that. But thank you for bringing it up.
Dan, I'm sorry,
Yes,
I
yeah.
don't know how to raise my hand on Zoom.
Okay, but the floor is yours, Gavin, if you'd like to.
Okay, sorry, thanks. Yeah, just to Shelley's point, I was also a little bit confused because, my understanding is currently that the chair assigns courses, knowing what the courses are and knowing the qualifications that his or hers or theirs individual faculty have, skill set matching with classes. There is a concern, I understand that, with SACS being concerned about person A not quite being able to qualify or qualified to teach course B. How is that going to be monitored? That's my point. I mean, is there going to be someone taking all the courses and all the combinations of faculty and classes and look at them, or is there going to be a random sample, or how will that be monitored? Is it going to be taken out of the hands of the chair? That's my question, really.
Yeah, well, and I think that's a good question. That's really the question that I asked Dr. Akins earlier in some, slightly different form, asking who is going to make this determination, because the chair, of course, is, I believe in all departments, this is the case. The chair is the person who currently has the authority to make hiring decisions, hiring recommendations, that is, for adjunct instructors to sign off on what people are teaching. And so that's already being reviewed by the chair. And then the question is, if there's this additional level of scrutiny, where is that coming from? Dr. Akins, thank you.
Absolutely.
I see people are very eager to, yes, I think people are very eager to talk with you on this. So, so the first question was Shelley's. And so, Shelley, I'll let you ask your question of the Vice Provost directly.
I think people are concerned. The SACS reaffirmation and the evidence or proving of our credentials to teach courses, that's not changed since the past, since we've been reaffirmed in the past, right? I mean, what they're asking is the same thing we've always had to do, correct?
I believe there may be some bigger scrutiny on the course level at this time. And that was a part of the discussion at our orientation of a class of 2024, where we attended in early December. And after that, it was continued in discussions with representatives from SACS-UC. So practically, it is very close to what you are currently doing for the system presentation of new programs. The table of information on faculty is about identical. So those of you who have this year or last year presented new programs to the system level, to USG, these are the requirements. So there is more scrutiny for SACS-UC, there is more scrutiny on the course level.
So
And, yes.
if I have a terminal degree in theater, which I do, are you saying that we're going to have to go through all of the theater courses that I teach, and I'm going to have to prove to you by writing or creative work or publishing or something that I'm qualified to teach those
If
courses?
you're teaching theater and your degree is in theater, there is no discrepancy.
Okay, great, thank you.
The discrepancy is if there is a difference between your PhD area, which may be more general, and the course may be something a little bit different. And I see other hands raised.
Yeah,
yes,
there are quite a few people that want to jump in. One question that just came in from the chat before we go to the raised hands is, what about XIDS or interdisciplinary courses? How would you handle?
These are handled exactly the same way as any other course.
Well, but I mean, there's no degree field in XIDS. So then the question is, how do you determine? So if someone is teaching an interdisciplinary studies course, almost by definition, it's going to cross several fields, and it may not be entirely clear at first how that relates to their primary field.
And we will have to be very specific what fields are in this specific course, because it will be different for each course. And the instructors, it may be very easy if the fields of the instructors are directly related to the disciplines that are interacting, or if they are not directly related, we will have to provide explanations such as other coursework done, or research, or publications, or a national leadership in these fields. So there are ways to do it, and we will have to find those ways. I don't think that we will hit a roadblock, but I do anticipate 1 or 2 questions to arise.
Okay. Nadia.
So one concern that I have has to do with the relatively new concept of chairs well outside the discipline. So I'm in a history program. By the way, my degree is in classics, so there's no word history in my degree, but for ancient historians, other historians can tell you, well, ancient historians are typically trained in either a classics department or a history department. Either way, you got your Greek, your Latin, your archaeology, whatever else, and credentials to teach ancient history. But my department chair is well outside my area. He has never worked in a history department. He has no idea that these are the expectations for historians. So how would, so for situations like this, which I'm sure exist all over campus, how would you expect this to work? Because in the previous setup, when we had departments that consisted of people in the particular discipline, obviously they knew these things. Now they don't.
I'm very happy you are asking this question, because it may occur in more than one department. So we will work directly with you, and I have the expectation that the new executive director of accreditation and quality enhancement will be engaged in supporting the chairs and the deans as they deem needed, and also be reviewing and identifying possible areas of questions. I just would like us not to be within the 92% of institutions that get citations, but to be ready and proactive and be within the 8% that do not get a citation. My phone is ringing, apologies.
Farouk, or maybe we'll give Dr. Akins just a second. Farouk, of course, you're.
Thank you, Dan. Dr. Akins, may I go ahead and ask a question?
Oh, absolutely, Dr. Khan, please.
Okay. This is not a gotcha question, Dr. Akins, but I will give you an example, and I have to word it carefully. SACS COC affirmation of 2013. It was a particular topic in the sciences, and I don't want to reveal the identity. The individuals who did not have a PhD in that department, but only had a master's degree, were disqualified from teaching that particular subject because they had many courses at the master's level which were not in that science subject proper, but were in science education. And I was the dean of the COSM at that time, and I had a conversation with the individual, and that was the only subject that was disqualified. So can you give me some such other examples which would disqualify an individual from teaching? And this is now my personal opinion, that if an individual has a PhD in a broad subject, which chemistry, for example, which changes at the interface with biology in particular, one can still continue to teach that subject even though new discoveries are made in biochemistry. Sometimes, like with viruses and DNA technologies and so forth, every 5 years perhaps. So that puts us in a somewhat awkward situation. How do we justify this? And it would be helpful if you were to give us a few more examples as to what might be a case where an individual might be disqualified from teaching.
My mindset is not in disqualifying. My mindset is how do we find a way to prove qualifications? I would be very willing to work on individual cases like the one you are presenting, where we may turn to faculty development, courses, conferences attending, presentations at conferences at the national level, proving the expertise the faculty has at the respective subject. So I do believe that things change, yet any faculty who has been considered qualified to teach in the previous reaffirmation, we can make the case that they are still qualified to teach 10 years later. So with that said, if any of the faculty that may have had not a direct relationship between the courses and their PhDs, and they were considered qualified to teach, even under the new scrutiny, we will be asking that they are still qualified, they were considered qualified, and there is no reason to discontinue that. For every specific case, we will have to see what qualifies the faculty. Again, my mindset is inclusion and not exclusion, and working towards reaffirming the qualifications of the faculty. And I believe an area that we may not have utilized previously, or we could utilize better in the future, is going through the faculty development and new areas of expertise beyond their master's and PhD degrees. Does this help you?
Dr. Akins, I understand the rule to include 18 hours of graduate level coursework in a discipline in order to teach that subject. Has that guideline changed from the 18 hours?
It has not changed yet in trying to review in whole, holistically, the qualifications of faculty. SACS COC will be accepting other examples of qualifications, which I do have. For example, if from your PhD is not necessarily visible or understandable the areas that you can teach, but you can say, let's say your PhD is in biology and you are teaching anatomy. And the question is there truly a direct relationship? And you can see that first you have a course in gross anatomy that you have taken during your biology degree. You can say that for 5 years, you have been with the National Society of Anatomist Teachers, and you are currently the president of that society. I'm just making this up to give you examples. I don't want to get into an area that may be too close to home. Or you can say that you have research and been awarded $50,000 grant to do anatomy research. So these are different options. And because even titles of degrees change over time, I don't want us to be feeling unqualified, but rather to think how we can prove our qualifications. And I stand ready to support you all. I just want you to know that this will be happening and we will be having those discussions.
Thank you.
You're very welcome.
So I know we have other hands and we'll get to those in just a second, but a couple questions that have come in from the chat that I'll forward to you right now, Dr. Akins, if you wouldn't mind. One is regarding first-year seminars. So, if we're talking about first-year chemistry, it may seem fairly straightforward as to how to examine qualifications. But if we're talking about first-year seminars, this course that's part of our core area B, the topics have been very eclectic, and faculty have been encouraged to try to link their own thinking in creative ways to students' life experiences. We also bring in staff sometimes to teach people who don't have terminal degrees in any discipline and whose master's degrees are probably professional degrees. So how do you plan to, so the question would be, how do you plan to evaluate the qualifications of people to teach first-year seminars? And then also, what about staff who have professional degrees, who have been teaching with their professional master's degrees in places like first-year seminar? Are they going to face an increased hurdle to try to continue teaching here?
Again, the same mindset of inclusion and not exclusion, and professional degrees, as long as they're related to the subjects taught or the topic of the seminar, that is something that I'm not concerned about if we would be able to prove that the people are qualified. We have to examine and document their achievements as professionals and the positives they bring to the classroom that could not be otherwise be accessible to the students unless this specific instructor was in the classroom. And again, it would be upon us to make those arguments for each and every course.
Okay, and a final question. Well, actually, there are several questions from chat that I see is coming in, but the first one, and then I'll go to Gavin in just a second, and then we'll come back to the chat questions. So question from chat is, why is this an issue now? Is there something that prompted this?
The prompting of this is to be ready and proactive, and the knowledge, the recent table that came out from SAC-CUC, that 92% of the institutions have citations in this area. And this is something that we can proactively address, anticipate, and resolve. And we would have one citation less.
Okay. We'll come back to some of the chat questions in just a second, but Gavin, the floor is yours for a question.
Thanks, Dan. Dr. Akins, thank you very much for coming to talk to us today, and thank you for your work on this. So I've just got a question. It might seem silly. I'm just trying to work my head around this. So let's say a chair has 30 people each teaching 3 courses a semester. So that's sort of 90 pairings of faculty A and course B. Are you going to be looking at all of those interactions? How will we be checking that we're in compliance with SACS, which I agree is of vital importance, and avoiding citations is very important, and thank you for that. How are we going to do it? Is every single pairing going to be checked, or just a sample? Or
when we have more than one faculty teaching a course, usually we have to have the main faculty assigned checked. And if there is no main faculty, we will see between the 2 people teaching the course how those qualifications are coming together.
But so let's say no one's teaching the same class, right? Let's say all faculty are teaching different classes. Will each of those sort of faculty course bridges be examined?
Yes.
Okay, and so not at the chair's level, Dr. Akins, but at a different level?
We would hope that most of the work will be done at the dean and chair's level. Yet, if we need to work individually with each and every faculty, we will do that. We have to do that. We have courses and we have faculty. We have more than several hundred faculty. So this will be a big job. What the reviewers are doing, they are reviewing all the paperwork, each and every faculty. I am a commissioner for another accreditation organization, not SAC-CUC. And what we are doing for faculty qualifications is very similar to what the SAC-CUC does. We review each and every faculty, including the field faculty.
So the decisions to make sure that individuals link with the courses, will that be done at the chair level?
We would hope so, but yet if there is some uncertainty, unclarity, let's work together on that.
I understand. Thank you very much, Dr. Akins.
You're very welcome.
I guess there's another question from the chat that I know that you mentioned that this is going to go into effect in the 22-23 academic year. So the question is, do we have a timetable for when this review process will begin and when faculty may be contacted to defend their qualifications to teach individual courses?
Once we have the schedule out, Once we have the schedule and faculty assigned to courses, so this is the time. And it is not going into effect. It has been in effect for SACS-COC, yet we are required to provide this information for the last 2 full semesters before the time of submission, and we have to submit in September 2023, which makes fall 22 and spring 23 the 2 full semesters that we have to provide this information about.
Okay. Shelley, I think you've had your hand raised for quite a while.
I just forgot to take it down.
Okay. Okay. Any other questions for Dr. Akins? And I guess there was one final question from the chat that just says, given the numerous issues that the university is facing, why is this a priority? And I know, Dr. Akins, you mentioned this SACS-COC concerns, the desire to avoid a citation. I guess this question reflects, though, the frustration that this is likely to prompt extra work, require extra work on the part of faculty and on the part of chairs, especially. Is there evidence, I guess, this is beyond the original question, but is there evidence that we've had a problem in this area in the recent past?
I would not say that we will have a problem, yet we have seen some issues with justifying faculty for USG and for new program for SACS-COC, where we still have to be very, I would say, creative in how we do that. There will be questions about master's degrees, so we will be very careful to justify that. Some master's degrees are the top and there is no further degree. So with all that, I don't think this is a time to panic or a time to kind of get negative feelings or anxiety. It is just something we have to complete. It will be hundreds of pages, and I do not know how many hundreds of pages this will come up to be, yet it will be a lot of work. And I feel it's appropriate to place this ahead of time instead of doing it in the last minute and hurry up and not do it well. We will have other areas, to refer to the question asked, that we will need to do work on. We already know that we have to be very meticulous in our assessment. We already know that we will have to do work on each and every of the 70 plus standards that we have. We're expecting to have maybe a couple of thousand pages of relevant documentation that will be accompanying an otherwise big document of several hundred pages of reaffirmation documentation. And in addition, we will have the QEP project, which is 100 pages set. So we will have to do a lot of work, and this has to be done with meticulousness to avoid doing the work second and third time should we get citations or some other actions from SACS-COC. We are doing this once every 10 years. So we don't want to do it every other year once we are reviewed. So this is preventive, and I do understand this is not the only area. We do have the list of areas that are most cited, and we are going first to those areas that are related to faculty and student success. Did this answer the question?
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I appreciate that. Farouk, I see you would like to speak again. Go ahead.
Thank you, Dan. Dr. Akins, here is a respectful suggestion. I hope it is not too naive on my part. So let us say there are several hundred faculty members, each teaching multiple courses. So that is easily several thousand courses per semester. Now, is there a way that the process can be streamlined? For example, Farouk Khan, chemistry 1, 2, 3, chemistry 3, 4, 5. probably not a problem.
Yes.
Farooq Khan, XIDS, aha. So how about the provost office coming up with only those cases where there might potentially be a problem and going through just those, because the rest of the check marks are probably going to be automatic?
I'm not familiar with how we can review in advance the problematic areas before we know who is teaching what.
Yeah, so perhaps an individual or a computer program that identifies the title of the course and the PhD in the discipline could sort out many of the instructors and match it with the courses. Or an individual could do it very quickly.
I love this. I wonder if a faculty on our ranks can help with writing that program. That would be fantastic. Any volunteer to work with the provost office on that? I am welcoming this. Innovation is great. So if somebody could write an algorithm, we do have computing, we do have very analytic oriented majors. So please help out. Let's make this a dream.
You take me beyond my area of expertise, and I would hate to volunteer my colleagues from computer science.
Well, Dr. Khan, may we continue this discussion so we could identify possibly individuals who could help with automating at least partially this process.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I see a question just came in saying, does this have to, does this apply only to courses taught in fall 22 and spring 23, or does it apply to all our courses? And I assume based on what you said, it's something that starts in fall 2022, right? And then moves forward from there. Is that correct?
Ideally, we will always do it like that. What we are required is to provide information about fall 22 and spring 23. And 10 years from now, we will be asked to provide information for the 2 full semesters before our next reaffirmation, provided we don't have any issues now. So in other words, it would be prudent, and we would like to see that we follow this in each and every time. Yet what we have to provide is fall 22 and spring 23.
Okay, well, very good. Well, thank you for that information, Dr. Akins. As you can see, clearly a number of faculty are concerned about this, have questions about this. I appreciate your willingness to answer those questions.
Please do not be concerned. Let's work on this proactively in anticipation, and that would give us a much larger chance of success instead of being caught in the moment. So please don't get anxious. Let's work on that. If you have individual concerns about the course that you teach, please reach to me at your earliest convenience or when you feel comfortable, and we can start looking into this in advance and to work it out.
Well, thank you. Thank you for all the information. Any other announcements before we close? Anything else that anyone wants to talk about? Seeing no hands raised, I think we are ready to adjourn. So have a good weekend, everyone. I look forward to seeing you back in February.